Oh, no. Spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have our potentially Australian team. I'm unfamiliar with Bud Air, but we do have our double Protoss and our one Zerg. We have Saundo, Wagon, and another dude. Let's go. ABBA. I go with ABBA. Let's go. ABBA, Wagon, and Saundo. In the bottom left-hand corner, we have the Latin American team. On Team Mancos, we have King, Demonic, and Uranus. Oh, 2 Terrans and a Zerg up against 2 Protoss and a Zerg. Let's go. Let's go. I always remember casting Team Anti-Mancos back in the day. Always. SMH my hedge. From here, we do have our initial openers. We have our Raxes on the way. Oh, I don't have individual colors. Oh, that's going to be confusing. That's why everything's blue and everything's red. I should fix that up. Regardless. Blue team up against red team. So far, this time, no proxies, nothing too crazy. Gonna be a more defensive opener here from our red player, going gas first, going gas pool into a delayed hatchery. So much more aggressive starts. Meanwhile, we have our own gate expands from our Protoss players. So just gate into Nexus. I'm not really too fond of these more safer openers, but if I remember correctly, I believe we have casted ABBA before, and I believe he has gone into mass muta. I think that's usually what he does, just goes into like fast lair, into fast gases, into like 2 base muta. We'll see if that continues here, that trend continues. Back at home, our trio just settling in, saturating their bases. Oh, I did mention mutas, but that is going to be a fast Roach Warren here. Okay, now the early gas and early pool makes sense into an early Roach rush. I'm not too fond of like early aggression like this, just because, especially if you're on your own, especially if the other 2 players are macroing, then it's 1v3, and the chances of these Roaches getting damage done early on should be a lot lower, but we'll see. We'll see how many Roaches ABBA does produce and how hard he commits. We shall see. As our players are expanding. Roach Warren is now done, and do we have any Roaches in production here? We do. We have 2 Roaches. let's go. 2 Roaches on the way, and then droning. So again, just a really light commitment to Roaches. This is quite expensive. Quite an expensive start here. Or ABBA. And this might just be safety at this point. As it's taking more bases, droning up. Yeah, it just has a safety amount of Roaches. Back at home, both players are just saturating their bases. Blink is on the way from one of our Protosses, and that's going to be a Twilight Count on a Forge from the other. Most likely into Blink, potentially Charge. Potentially Charge on the way. Meanwhile, these are 3-minute 20 lair timings from both players. With these early lairs, I'm feeling muta from both players as well. I mean, there is also a safety Roach Warren from our Uranus Manco. Let's go. Does have his own Roach Warren. But for now, droning up, we'll see if we do tech into something like Aspire or into just Roach Speed. This nation scouting across the map. Does poke in, does scout. And we have the answer. It is going to be Charge, so Charge and Archons on the way. From the side of the red Protoss team. I appreciate that they're taking in different directions. 1 Blink, 1 Charge, let's go. Yo, I'll be honest, I mean, the UI for team games are awful, and seeing the line up here, seeing this lineup, it's so hard to read. just the lines of production, ay. It doesn't help that blue's on top for some reason and red's on the bottom. Doesn't help. Here we go. Hell is a bust into the mineral line. Getting a couple of workers. I think people have been speaking about this recently, but again, yeah, like just the UI for team games is less than ideal. Heads they poke in, they get a couple of workers. The lairs are done, and do we have any hidden tech here? So far, not quite. Despite both players rushing to very fast lairs, they're not really making use of it here. I mean, I guess there's a hydrogen on the way from our blue Zerg player, but our red Zerg has yet to really embrace any faster tech, any earlier gases, so a bit of a more inefficient start here by rushing into the lair as quickly as he did is inefficient, but there it is. Now we have the answer, mutas. So again, we have casted this player before. It is going to be going into mass muta. Meanwhile, the opposing Zerg are going to Hydras. When it comes to our Terran players here, we do have mech on the way. I believe mech for both, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, mech for both players. So mech and Roach Hydra on the way against Blink Stalkers, Charge Archon, and Mutas. So now we are going to be settling in. Banshees that have arrived. Poking forward. They will at least depower all this production. Not bad. Pylon goes down. Pylon does fall. Both players building up. We are settling in. And here come the mutas. This is basically what I was waiting for. Mutas are on the way. This should be the first sign of aggression from the red team. They've just been turtling up back at home, you know, with their proto-spaced armies. Mutas can be somewhat active, but there aren't that many mutas to work with. I wouldn't be opposed to the other teammates maybe feeding gas to the Zerg to like actually make this work. For now, it's just a handful of mutas, so it's literally two. Just two mutas. So not ideal. And the scan does reveal the muta. With that, our players should be preparing back at home. Throwing down turrets, throwing down side defense. I mean, turrets are already in place, Jesus, at least for some of the players. The turtling is real. Turtling is real. And it actually isn't really going to be a big commitment into mutas. I assumed it would be. I assumed it'd be like, you know, maybe 10 mutas moving out across the map. But it's literally like 3. It's like 3 mutas, then into roach speed into a ground-based army instead. So it's mainly going to be roach here from our red Zerg. And again, so far our players have just been really passive. Just really passive play. Just securing their economies, building up a semblance of an army. As we are gearing up. What I will say here is that at least some of these mech armies are quite terrifying, but they're also spread out. We have a mech-based army here on the right-hand side. Likewise, we have some tanks on the left, but not really too many. So an attack on the left-hand side could actually get a lot of ground. Can gain a lot of ground, get a lot of damage done. These bases looking very exposed. Do we push in? Send it, wagon. Send it. We can just aim it. There's nothing here. There's 2 unsieged tanks. Where's the rest of this army, by the way? Hold on. King. Okay. He's only got 4 tanks. It looks like his macro has been slipping quite a bit. So this is half his army. Instead, wagon rotates to the right-hand side. So this was the most vulnerable location to push into. I mean, now there's Roach Hydra moving in. Here on the right-hand side, this is a more fortified location, which happens to be kind of where they're headed. I mean, we'll see. They're going to be distracted by the Roach Hydra. They rotate back around. But last Saundo, he's already in position. Army responds. A lot of posturing. More bases being taken. And the mech army is somewhat moving out. We'll see how 2 players do respond. Now, Roach Hydra doesn't really scale well into the mid-game. I believe there is a lurker den. I think we saw it previously. My apologies. No, never mind. I mean, there is. Okay, there is a lurker den. Lurkers are now on the way. These are late, which is a little bit concerning. And if the Protoss army had pushed in, then damage would have been done, but the Lurkers looks like they would just finish up in time. Oh, can they finish? They will. And Lurkers do complete, they burrow, and they zone away the army. So far, so good. Libs have arrived as well. Liberators are here. Oof. They take a storm to the face. You take a storm. Likewise, we do have our players getting ready on the right hand side. Are building up. But I mean, a lot of players are starting to max out. We have a maxed out Charger Archon army towards the left. And I believe we have a maxed out Terran army as well. Yeah, this army here. As King, he is now maxed out. He's pushing in. He's got a massive amount of tanks and Thors. These Hydras, they cannot fight within range of the tanks. They have to back off. And Hydras are forced back. Protoss army responds, does react, runs into a wall. And bases are falling. Nidus into the main as well. Thankfully, there are some cannons. But do they notice? Oh, I don't think they have. Yeah, Saundo otherwise idle here on the left-hand side, and Nidus rooms they do complete. And Lurkers, they're going for the bases, they're going for the main. Workers are going down. Tech as well, getting to the mineral lines. And I don't think there's any detection here. You know, Overseers are still on the way. Lurkers, they do trade well. Oh my god, they shut down some of the tech. But with the arrival of the Overseers, this should be cleaned up. At the same time, the main army pushing in. Oh, we have liberation, we have freedom. Liberation zones, they pop up. They shut down the army. I like how you've got like Wagon and Abba like fighting for their lives, and Saundo's out here knocking down rocks. It's like, mate, they need you. Don't worry about it. Stores, they're pushing in. Mate, someone has to handle these rocks. I understand. As he is at least in position to deal with these roaches. Roach is going to be dealt with. Base is going to be going down. Like a surround, like this Charger Archon army coming in from behind. Oh, there's no detection. No detection. Lurkers, they get free damage. The move command. Move commands past the roaches and hydras. But unironically, like this army surrounding coming in from behind would have been ideal to just collapse on in and just surround this and clean this up. There was definitely a lot of potential. But here comes the Tempest. Tempest have made it. And they have a lot of kiting potential. Oh, Liberators are on siege. Massive storm. Storm goes off. Liberators pushing in. They stand in the storms. Oh my god. The storm. They shut down the libs. That should not have happened. Every single Liberator is going to go down. Insane damage with the storms. Let's go. If there was a reaction, if there was kiting or a better spread there from the Terran, I do think the Tempest count would have been reset. The Liberators had so much potential. Despite that, the Thor army is pushing in, moving toward the bases. Libs, they zone away the ground. Tempest, they will clean this up though. There's an offensive warp in. Thor's going for the main. They catch out the mutas from the start of the game. You can see Zealous, they do so well against mech. They caught out the tanks. Thors, they shut down the Colossus. Only Tempest remain. And the Tempest army is going to crumble. As the Tempests are going down. And with that, the Zerg player's dead. There is no more Zerg here. The Mule's... oh god, Mule's under the storm. Libs still go down. Yeah, from here, Abba, he's out of this game. We do see that Wagon, he's building up a Tempest army. Yeah, now we have a big counterattack. Now Saundo's army is now finally being activated with Mass Charger Archon. And back at home, there is an army to defend, but it's out of position. Like, we have all these tanks, we have all these libs here on the right-hand side, not towards the left. So Saundo, he is getting a lot done here. And this is who? This is Demonic and King. They're not quite responding. They're not responding to the attack. There we go. Is a late response here. As CCs are going down. They were pulling a Saundo. That's where it's being cleaned up as well. With that, we have Mutas on the way. Interesting. So if they get in position. Now, there are still all these mining bases towards the left-hand side, so the economy is still quite robust from our, at least, Protoss players. The Zerg is down to a handful of workers, so again, the Zerg is out for the time being. It's mainly double Protoss here against Zerg Terran. In saying that, actually, both Zerg players are pretty much out of this game. When it comes to the blue Zerg player, this is the army. 5 lurkers. 5 lurkers from the blue Zerg, a couple of mutas from the red Zerg. It's mainly a TVP. It's mainly Terran versus Protoss at this point. Oh, we have Storms. Storms coming into play. Libs, they have arrived. As the Zerg players, they're both like trying to do something. Morphing in more lurkers. Freedom has arrived. I'm not too fond of this. They're bullying like the Zerg economy, but I don't think you need to. Like the Zerg players are already, for the most part, out of this. Ooh, as the mutas, they get completely reset. Again, chasing down the drones. Whereas the ground army does break through. And again, these libs will be ideal defensively. Likewise, where are the tanks? Once again, the army's out of position. Mech army has to respond. Know where it needs to be. Doors are on their own. And they're going to be shut down. Doors are falling. Libs are busy across the map dealing with carriers. And this ground army is just being allowed to wreak havoc. The tanks, there's no siege. They will force it back. Forcing back the Protoss. Oof, okay. Not again. I'm getting deja vu, Pappy. The storms. The storms on the libs. Not again. Now the army's moving up. But again, this army specifically is very vulnerable to charge lots. Typically, when you play mech like this, you need Hellbats. You need so many Hellbats here to support the army, to protect these tanks. Otherwise, this happens. Zealots, they get on top. They force friendly fire. One tank goes down, and the rest of the army just collapses on in. Again, there's just not enough support for the tanks. Tanks, they get completely shut down. And with that, the army crumbles. Now the Liberators come in. Liberators are late. Now they can be focused down as well. And from here, we're just snowballing out of control. There isn't really much left. We have a handful of lurkers moving out. That's the Zerg army. Tanks once again attempting to reposition. But whether it's Hellbat support, whether it would have been Liberators, you know, Cyclones, anything to buffer for those tanks. This is also why mech in TVP, like in 1v1 format, is very niche. It's very often not seen, just because not even just Charger Archon, but Charger Archon Immortal does very well, trades very efficiently against mech-based compositions. It's very difficult to make mech work. Can be quite difficult. With that, the Hellbats are not quite here. I mean, the Archons, they just break through anyway. Breaking through the line of Hellbats, breaking through the tank line as well. Base is going down. And with that, the Archons, they can just move in. They can just move in. They can send it. Likewise, we have the second Protoss army hitting bottom right. We got some Sky Toss sprinkled in with some Storm. And the Terran armies are just being pulled apart left and right. Going for what little's left here of the Zerg army as well. Oh no. Get out of here. And there isn't really much left here for our players. Checking the armies tab here, we have 15 Thors. Jesus, I'm not too fond of this. Like, what's the role of the Thor? The Thor is here, I guess, against what, Skytoss? But there's not really much Skytoss here. Like, Thors, they struggle against what we're seeing, against Chargelets, against Archons. Thors are not really what you want, as they do high damage to individual units, which is why they struggle against Lings, for example, or against Chargelets here. Against a swarm of units. It's almost like he saw all of his tanks die, so he just switched into Mass Thor, when really, ideally, you want like a mixture of the two. Like, if his thought process is that, okay, he needs some kind of like support for his tanks, then Thor's, okay, it makes sense, but... Well, let's go with the Nidus! Nidus is getting into the main, I guess, of the Zerg, who was already out of this game as well. At least somewhat. They have an economy. They have 2 bases up and running. Let's go. He has, what? 4 mutas. This is the army. 4 mutas. Building up more. Meanwhile, the carriers are moving out. I still feel like there's no real answer here to the ground toss, but we'll see. We'll see how they engage. Rotating over. It's going to be rotating. Both Protoss armies have maxed. They're both maxed out. I also just realized, hold up, I didn't notice this because the numbers are so small. This blue Zerg player has been hoarding 5,000 minerals. Mate, what's that? Share the resources, Bobby. Oh my god, it's got 5k minerals in the bank. He should be trading resources at this point. I mean, he's making Lings, but he only has 2 bases, so he just has no larva, so he can't spend his money. He should be sharing. Aye, aye, aye. Even if it's just for like Hellion production, still better than nothing. Regardless, we're going for a base trade. The mech army moves in. At the same time, here comes the Protoss army. He's just going for the elimination, going for the bases. There is no recall. Do they turn around? They have to make a tough choice. They have to at this point. They have to turn around. There's no way for them to win the base trade, as all the buildings are falling. The Planetary does take down some of the Archons, as we do need some more Archon support. Magpies pushing in. Mutas, they do come in to help. Breaking into the main. And these armies may just never fight. At this point, they may just never fight. As there is a gas geyser towards bottom right. There's a gas geyser, there's a Nidus Worm, so these buildings might come into play. The drone is he saves the drone. Morphs in a hatchery. Let's go. But the problem is that our blue team here, they're just running out of buildings so much faster. And I believe there aren't any other workers on the map. So again, these are going to be the final buildings. Likewise, back at home, we have some reinforcements, and yeah, they're tapping out. Yeah, they're going to be tapping out at this point. The writing is on the wall. There's no making out of this. And GG gets called. Team Saundo, Team Bud Air, they will take it. They will take the game. GG. Was a much more chaotic game, is what I will say, which I appreciated. Much more chaotic. Early on, I mean, the Zerg players just killed each other. Like, early on, the Zerg players just fell over and died. It just turned into, like, 2v2s more than anything. I do think that unfortunately there was some miscommunication when it comes to like army movements and army rotations as well, from both sides, to be fair, from both sides, and did allow the Charger Archon to like break through these defensive lines, get into bases as well. We saw multiple times the tanks out of position, not where they needed to be, caught on siege as well, multiple times. GG, well played. Congrats, Pappy, congrats. Do take the game. And I believe there is one game left. I believe there's one game left for us to cover. I'm here for it. I'm ready for it. Let's go. It was during the stream, actually, with Hyper One. Hyper One did redeem a replay, and I don't know what we're getting ourselves into. I assumed it was going to be an SC Evo replay, but no, not the case, not the case. It is going to be a StarCraft 2 replay. Oh, no. It is going to be an SC2 replay instead. It is going to be a TVT. Hyper One, what do you have for us here? On Amygdala as well. Oh, no. Not like this.